I'm going to ask this to everybody here in a different way. So Chris, being a youth at, I want to say at your prime age, I would say, in the dating world, because obviously all men want to be with women. How do you deal with fornication? So how do you deal with the temptation of fornication as a newly baptized and youth that is possibly actively going on dates? I'm assuming, sorry. How do you deal with it?
It's very tough. I grew up in the world. I didn't grow up with God. And it's hard to try to change my entire perspective on dating and what my old goals for dating were and what my new goals are now. And it took me a while. I stopped dating for a very long time in between me getting baptized and me finding God, just because I wanted to reset myself. It's hard to look at, honestly, to be very blunt, it's hard to look at women the same way I do now and think about how I used to look at women. It was very misogynistic before I met God. Mm-hmm. And now it's a lot different. You don't look at their looks, you look at their spiritual walk, how strong their ties are with God. Are they a good wife material? It's not the same life I used to have. And I thought it would be easy, just turning that switch off and saying, okay, we'll go on dates and I don't need fornication. And I went on a date and immediately I didn't have a chaperone. And that's honestly, maybe chaperones are a good thing. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But, we didn't do anything that would make me ashamed to say, but we kissed and it threw me off because I felt terrible afterwards. And I didn't realize the difference of my morality. I felt terrible kissing someone. And my whole goal before was way worse than just kissing. And I think you really have to find out what you want in life. What's your goal? And to be honest, to fight fornication, don't put yourself in positions to do it. Don't be alone with a woman in a room. Don't go out in places where it's heavily and readily available. Separate yourself from that life, and it's going to be harder to find you. Right.
I get you. I'm gonna pound you a little bit on this one. Connected with that would be as a young guy and not being married, so you probably have more time to yourself than us married guys have, and a lot of harder spots to hide things in. So it's a little different. So if you know where I'm going, how do you deal with pornography? Being a young man that you are, I know this is a tough question. I'm just glad nobody's asking me. Go ahead.
Well, to be honest, that's a struggle that I still struggle with. I'll be open and honest right now. Growing up, once again, I was worldly. It wasn't taboo for someone to watch it. It wasn't. It was an outlet. It was a stress reliever. It was a sexual tension reliever. If you're bored, you did it. I was in the Navy for 6 years on deployment. That's one way to get the time to pass by. I'm going to be honest with you. And from 25 years of living one way to immediately trying to change my life for God, it's one of the hardest struggles to fight. It's honestly, quitting watching porn is harder than stopping to do drugs.
Wow.
And it's something that I pray about daily. And I beat drugs. And unfortunately, sometimes I slip up and I'll look at something and I immediately regret doing it. And it's something that I'm still fighting. And I pray about it constantly. It's an addiction that eats at you. And you feel this adrenaline rush when you're watching it. And then you feel like you just got hit by a train when it's done because you realize what you just did.
Right.
And it's something that eats at you because it'll nip at you. And you'll think you're like, you'll tell it to go away. Like, oh, no, I don't need it. And it's something that builds up in the moment. And you just, at one point, sometimes it slips and you watch.
Wow.
And I'm here to tell the people that are my age or younger that it's not a roller coaster you want to ride. There's no happy ending. You don't just get off that roller coaster. You're on there. It's an adrenaline rush that you can't get rid of, and then it becomes an addiction. And if you're fighting this, it's not an easy fight, and I implore you to reach out to somebody, whether it be someone you just trust or whether it be your parent or a pastor. It's better to have someone to fight this fight with you than you fight it on your own. It's not easy.
Wow. What you said was it gave me the chills, bro. I mean, I wanted to bust out the Flavor Flav. I don't even know if you know who Flavor Flav is, but
I know.
he goes, wow.
I'm 26.
when you said fighting or dealing with porn is harder than dealing with not doing drugs, is mind blowing. I'm assuming this is a generational issue because, and I'm gonna chime in on this one. It was harder for us. I'm 38 right now. I think I'm 38 years old. So I graduated class of 99, just so you guys know where I'm at as far as generation wise. It was a lot harder to get a hold of porn when we're younger. When I was probably your age is when the internet started getting there, but it was so darn slow that it was super hard to get a hold of it. You know, it was like, and you're living with your parents. We didn't have cell phones like that. We had cell phones, but they didn't have videos and stuff like that. So I'm seeing the drastic change of how much harder it is for your generation or younger to have it at your fingertips. That's got to be a lot harder. And also, I think what I see a lot is if I'm having a hard time with Instagram and Snapchats, whatever the case is, more like Instagram, where you're dealing with a lot of photos. If you're looking at stuff for cars and stuff like that, you see there's a lot of females out there. I know it's not porn, but I know it could be kind of like a gateway to it. And I could imagine if you guys have more access to all this stuff starting from a younger age, of how hard it is. But that's super crazy. So my question to you is, what is your tactic to refrain from it?
So I tried a few different methods, and there's only been two that have actually prevented me from watching it. One was push-ups. Every time I wanted to watch it, I did push-ups. And as soon as I was done with that, I would go about my day. But an easier method, and it's going to sound super simple, pray. The second you want to watch it, start praying. Because the second you have God right next to you, it's a lot more awkward to watch it. I'll tell you that. If you have the presence of God right on your shoulder and you know he's in that room with you, you're not going to want to watch that anymore. It's going to throw it off of you, because at that point you're like, okay, someone is watching you. Mind you, he's always watching you. He knows what you're doing. Yeah. But when you bring him in with you and you bring him like he's here now, it's a different feeling. And it completely throws you for a loop, and that carnal's is gone. Killing
the mood. All right, good stuff. I like that whole. I mean, we're gonna see a lot of these young guys. Get your push-ups on. Let's get in shape here. So, Mark, as a newlywed, a couple years under your belt now, you're still young. How do you? I'm gonna ask you two questions. How do you deal with it now as a husband? Which it wouldn't be fornication; it would be adultery. We know the scripture of Jesus saying, even if you look at a woman with lust, you're committing adultery in your heart. How do you deal with, so that'll probably tie into pornography. So how do you deal with not seeing that? And then how did you deal with it before? I mean, is it push-ups? Mark.
So I think this is something where I appreciate Chris just opening up, because that's not easy. I've said this, what I'm about to say, probably twice at the scale that I'm going to say it now, and now to this level. I was addicted to pornography. I was addicted at a very, very high level, and it's detrimental. And I agree 100% with Chris that it is worse than a drug addiction. It really is. I researched it. I analyzed it. It triggers dopamine, the pleasure drug of your body or your mind. And the reality is that it is hard. It is hard. I tried everything you can imagine. I tried calendars. I tried, programs. I tried everything to get out. And I would pray at 4 a.m. To get rid of this, because it is a guilt trip. Like if I could feel the guilt that I feel after looking at pornography, then when I, prior to doing it, I would love that, so that I would never look at it. But you get that nasty feel of just what did I just ingest? What did I just take in? And it was hard, brother. Years and years of fighting and, you know, not finding an out until you really realize what the root of the problem is. And if we do like a you know, a root analysis, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole lesson, but it's truly idolatry. Idolatry in the sense that we make ourselves the idol. I'm going to please myself. I'm going to give myself what I want. It's all about me. And once you realize that, and you put that on God's, you know, in God's hands, and you say, God, deal with my flesh, deal with my desires, my unsatisfaction, deal with all these things that are in me. If, you know, take my heart and put it on your balance. If there's perversity, if there is lust in me, remove it and add all those things that I need. So that's the reality of pornography. Now, I'm married, and now you might ask, like, so how do you deal with it now? It's still a possibility to look at pornography. It's on our phones. It's easily available. It's easy. You know, you click here and there, and then something pops out that just triggers your mind. I hope you don't wake up, you know, in the morning, you know, and say, like, I wonder who I'm going to lust upon. I wonder what I'm going to look up on the internet today. You know, if you do, you need help. But the reality is we wake up like normal men, and, you know, things happen along the way. So it's a mind game. You have to make sure you know exactly where you're weak. So don't go like, I don't know what to do. I'm bored. I'm just going to surf the internet. The reality, you surfing the internet is going to cause you to find something. And that's something is going to lead you to more and more and more, which is then, you know, pornography. Pornography is going to lead you to fornication, because now you're going to act on that, on what you're seeing. And after you act on it, now you want it. And that's probably going to lead you to prostitution, you know, to pay for those type of things. And I say this, you know, with a broken heart. There's a young man that was addicted to pornography. Wasn't enough. He wasn't satisfied. So he jumped to fornication. Now he was fornicating with all these women. Now when he couldn't get what he wanted, he jumped to the next step, which was, you know, paying for, you know, sex, you know, prostitution. So there's levels to this. And it all starts with not being able to control what you see. What you see leads to pornography, leads to lust, leads to now you're acting upon it. Now, you know, it's uncontrollable. So the way that I deal with it, yes, I'm married. Yes, you know, I have my wife. You know, you relieve yourself in the majority of the part in your wife, but you don't stop being a man. We can't minimize that. We can't take away. We have testosterone. There's still women that pass by that are not dressed properly that capture my eyes. But you got to remember, you got to look straight. Don't look to the right, to the left, but keep your eyes fixed on what matters, and that's what's important. And that's how you overcome on a daily basis. Prayer is essential, but keep yourself busy. You know, Don't go into the internet. Don't go looking for things, because you're gonna find something, and you might not like what you find.
Yeah. So don't spend so much time alone. Go take a walk or do some push-ups, right, Chris?
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
So, man, just to know who Mark was talking about, he doesn't go to our church, so don't even ask. As far as the fornication part of it, the not pornographic part, but the non-fornication, the temptation of fornication before you were married, when you were dating, how did you get through that?
So that's a good question, because the reality is that you have someone there that puts the fear of God in you, and that's called a chaperone. I tried my best to never be alone with my wife. I think it happened, you know, once something happened, I don't remember, but we were like, hey, we need to be careful here. Like, let's just go back. Let's just end this, whatever we were going to do. Because the reality is that if you don't put, you know, someone in the middle there, there's always 5 people present in any date. And I'm going to name them for you. There's the guy, there's the girl, there's the chaperone. The chaperone can't be, you know, absent. God, you got to have God in that relationship. And the devil is always present. So if you eliminate, you know, that chaperone, and that devil's present, and you feel the fire, you know, you feel what's going on with that chemistry, you're going to act on it. We have testosterone. We have feelings. We're young men. So the reality is, have someone with you. Have a little, you know, not a little brother that's ignorant and doesn't know what's going on, but have someone there that's going to put the fear of God, that's not going to allow you to do certain things that you know you would do if they weren't present. certain kissing, grabbing, touching, that happens. That's real. And if we sugarcoat things, then we're not going to get nowhere. And that's the reality. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't envy anybody who isn't married. I don't envy anybody who's unmarried and Christian. I mean, dude,
Thanks, brother.
I'm so glad when I got baptized, I was already married. So that's got to be hard. The whole dating thing, it's just amazing how and we're going to touch on the chaperone thing. I think we have to. Yeah, that's super tough. That's just a really big, tough issue. Thanks, Mark, for being transparent. Thanks, Chris, for being transparent. You guys, this is not just you. If this is not just you. And if you wake up in the morning thinking what Mark was saying, reach out to somebody. I mean, we're all here. So now we're going to take it over to the veteran here, who's been married for quite some time, who's been serving for quite some time. We're going to ask you this question as well. Being married for how long you have been, do you still have the same perspective or the same, I don't want to say issues, but the same battle, I want to say the same battle that Mark and Chris are going through at the young age? Is it still happening in your world? And also a follow-up question would be, I guess, because you do have a young daughter, how are you dealing with the conversations with her on something like that? Brother Jay?
Let me just tell you, as you spend more time in the walk with Christ, God gives you the ability to overcome a little bit. You get a little bit stronger in Him, but don't for 1 minute think that you've overcome it and, oh, that doesn't bother anymore, because we are men, and the devil is the devil, and you can be a strong Christian, but if you let your guard down for a minute, that can creep right in. So never have that confidence that, oh, I got it down. Your confidence has to be in the relationship you have with God, and it's an ongoing battle. So yes, most definitely, it's an ongoing battle. Okay. But greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world, and you got to believe that. You got to believe that.